So the area that I chose is a small plot of grass. It's located over here on South Campus. It's basically surrounded by the Annapolis building, some other South Campus housing. It's got the chapel fields on one side. It's actually directly next to the Memorial Chapel itself, um, and right next to the Garden of Reflection and Remembrance, um, which is a very small garden, but it was basically the basis of my idea for how this piece of land could be used better. So it's in a really good area because there's a lot of traffic around it, meaning it's easily accessible by students living on South Campus, which is a pretty big population. It's also pretty quiet for being in the middle of South Campus, um, and uh, and it's also like rarely used. Normally, I would say not to use this piece of land for anything else because you'd be taking away from recreational activities that it might be used for now, such as ultimate frisbee or anything like that. However, because it's like a somewhat of a valley and it's sloping downward, you can't really use it for anything sports or activity related. And I think that's part of the reason why it's always so abandoned. Um, so the shape of it is also pretty advantageous because it could be easily transformed into more of a private space that has like a lot of maybe green coverings um, on the edges surrounding it, and it also doesn't have anything for students to really use, such as benches or tables or walkways through it, and I think that's part of the reason why it's always empty. It's a fairly large piece of ground though, um, and I think it can be converted into almost an extension of the Garden of Reflection and Remembrance. So my vision for it might be a little dramatic, but I think that with relatively small amounts of funding, it could be converted into like a gazebo field where you have like little study gazebos around the edge, and where implementation of some plants and trees around the edge could give it more of a private feel. This is, like I said, easily accessible by a lot of students, and it's completely unused right now. And I think that turning it into something like a gazebo field where there's like areas for students to sit and study in an already quiet area that could be made even more private, um, could be a big success. So this is my idea.